Welcome to the Real Estate Growth Network podcast. This week was a great conversation. And as a real estate agent, it helps you position yourself in a way where, clients can't hide behind the data. You can use the data to support the claim that it's always a good time to buy so long as someone has a good enough reason and they can afford it. Chase, what did we talk about today?
Well, we set out to run through a lot of data and slides, and we ended up getting to two. So we went deep dive on annual home sales across the nation, and then we went deep dive on, essentially the average sold price across the nation. And we talked about what happens, what has to happen in order for home prices to come down. It might not be what you think.
Yeah, so tune in, stay until the end, and you'll end with an idea of how you can use this data to support your business. And here is a real estate titan that is pushing the limits on the status quo.
And it took years and years of failing to get where I am today.
You're like, whoa, or you actually get the most clarity.
That was kind of one of those pivotal moments when I started building a business.
I spent a lot of time becoming an expert salesperson.
All right, so we're looking at home sales annually. Just going to kind of take a peek at the history. I got started in 2005. Not a bad year, right? Like everyone's selling real estate. By the way, I got started in 2005, but it wasn't because a lot of homes were selling. It was literally just by luck. Like someone's like, we should go get real estate licenses. And I was so fed up with my job. I was like, okay, what's that? Of course, the following years were pretty tough. So this is, if it ever feels like I'm being tough on you, this is because this has shaped my real estate career these first 5 years in the business. And I know some of you started around the same time.
I started selling mortgages in 2007.
Yeah, so you're right in the
Perfect
depths of it.
time to sell mortgages.
Yeah, so some key things like this is just annual home sales in millions. Now, by the way, each one of these represents a side. So when you see 7.1 million sales in 2006 or five, excuse me, that's 14.2 million sides. So there's a buyer and a seller, right? And roughly 92% of these have a real estate agent involved. So you can see it goes down. It takes this 4-year window and it's like we're down 2.4 million sales in 4 years. That's effectively what ended up happening there. And then you kind of look at it, we bottomed out and nationally in the like 2010, 2011 area. And we just kind of slowly were grinding upward. There was nothing crazy going on from 2013 to really 19. Rates were really low. They would go up and down between 3 and 4.5%. I think a lot of people back then took for granted how cheap money was and also how cheap real estate was. So I'll show you the price slide and you guys see what I'm talking about. But I want to fast forward to, through COVID, and then you can see the interest rates are going up massively here. And of course, the amount of sales volumes going down. And a lot of that has to do with, people having lower rates and not wanting to move. And then, of course, some people not wanting to buy with higher rates. And so that's driving a lot of this. I would say that's probably like the overwhelming majority, Brent, of why we're having less home sales.
You know what I think of though when I see this
What's that?
is there's still 4.1, 4.06, and 4.807 million sales.
Yeah.
There's still sales. That's what I see.
Yeah, and you know what? Realtors fall off too, right? And so the greatest time to make money in real estate, honestly, even though there was less home sales in this time frame, there was way less realtors. The amount of sales per realtor, I don't think we have that slide, unfortunately.
I'm actually looking it up right now with my AI to see
Okay.
how many agents there were in those different periods between '06 through
Yeah,
'09 and then
it was.
21 through 24.
This was like the depths. This was the depths. I think the annual, like National Association of Realtors was probably in like the 700,000 range. I know locally here in Idaho, we peaked around 6,500 in 2005 and 6, and we were down to like 15 to 1,800 agents in 2010 or 11. So even though we had, half the sales or slightly more than half the sales, we had a quarter of the agents.
So that
And
means
prices
per
were low.
deal, per agent
Units.
closing was higher on
Yeah,
average.
the average amount of units per agent was higher.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think that's happened somewhat. And part of the reason we haven't seen a massive fall off in agents, Brent, is because there's still a massive amount of income to be made. And that's because prices are holding steady. Prices have gone up tremendously, which we'll see here in a second. So this is 2025. This is the annual home sales we had, just over 4 million. So you can see, we bottomed out in essentially 24. It's been flat, 23, 24, 25. 26 right now, we're pacing 4.17 million through May. So obviously this data is a little old. We usually get it a couple months late. The new data should be out for June here very shortly, but we're going to be in that 4.2 million annual home sales. So, and then you can see that seasonal income cycle. We see more sales close in May, June, July, August, typically nationally. Some markets are different. I mean, I know in Arizona, their peak season is typically in the winter. They sell a lot more homes in the winter than they do in the summer, right? Not a lot of people want to buy homes when it's 120 degrees out.
But what that's actually saying is when you're looking at this data and you're seeing that May is up from April, there's some seasonality to that as well nationally.
Yeah.
That's what it's telling us.
Yep.
Okay. Got it.
Yep. Yeah. So you can see, go back to 23, it was 4 million, 4.55, 4.43, 4.29, 4.3, 4.16. Now, by the way, rates were going up as that's happening in 23. So I guess 24 might be a better number, but they don't have numbers above them. So it's hard to tell. But yeah, seasonally, you're going to have more income. Now, here's home prices. This is interesting. When you go back and think about the amount of home sales, there's less home sales. I was telling you there wasn't a lot going on. It's like hindsight's 2020, but look at this trend, this 4% trend line. A lot of you have seen this before, but this 4% trend line is basically assuming that real estate appreciates at 4% per year, which it has historically. This is where pricing should be at. And you can see we were 21% over that trend line in 2006 when the market flipped, right? And for those of you that don't know, maybe you're younger or whatever, this is a great financial recession, the Great Recession, if you will. I mean, prices came down dramatically. It's funny because I was in the Boise market and, this shows 222 to 172. I would say in Ada County, for those, I know we have quite a few agents in the Boise area, our average price is probably 275 and we were down to 160. So it was a more dramatic drop off locally here, at least in Idaho, those hotter markets. So Phoenix, Vegas, Boise, they saw some really sharp fall offs, but they also had these massive ramp ups too. But just look at that gap, right? And if this gap actually goes down and becomes a gap again, right now it's above the trend. We were much higher above the trend in 2023, 2022 and 23. But I think we were 13 or 14% back here. And so now we're back to 7% above the trend line. It's not looking that out of control.
Well, no, Chase, all it takes is a couple of years where, prices go up, flatline or go up 1 or 2%.
Yep.
A couple of years of that, and we're at the trend line. So, this conversation around, we're way inflated, housing prices are way high. It might feel like that, but the reality is what happened between 2020 and 2021 was dramatic.
Yeah.
It threw us over the line, but we were below the line. So
that's a 20% increase.
Yeah, it feels
nationally.
dramatic. It feels really dramatic, especially if you stack it year after year, which is what happened there. But when you look at the 4% inflation line or appreciation line, sorry, you look at that long-term average, I mean, we're 2 years away from being at that average. Unless some kind of crazy price increase happens, which, is unforeseen, but also not really expected.
The other thing that's kind of crazy, Brent, is once prices go up, it's really hard for them to come down. I mean, this took a freaking national disaster, a financial crisis to bring real estate prices down. I'm not saying that couldn't happen again, and no one knows. I mean, it certainly could. But I'm just telling you, look at this. We had interest rates went up the fastest they've ever gone in the history of the Federal Reserve, and prices didn't even come down. So it just takes a ton to move pricing down. So how would I utilize that information? If someone's panicking and they're like, man, I'm afraid to buy a home because I don't want to, lose a bunch of value and lose a bunch of money. And it's like, okay, well, we know the alternatives are like you're going to own a home and pay a mortgage. And every time you make a payment, you're actually, paying down some equity. You're also locking in the price for, essentially forever. And you're locking in the rate and payment forever. The alternative to that is you rent a house or rent a place or whatever, and you don't lock in any price. You don't lock in any payment. In fact,
and you don't create any equity with
there's zero equity, right? Someone rents for 20 years, they have nothing. So those are the two options. And when you know those options and their only fear is they're gonna see pricing come down, the reality is that could happen. It could happen. It's just really, 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 really rare. So,
Chase, this is, you guys, as real estate agents, right? Like I've had, I don't want to say I've been in debates, but I've been in heated conversations with people around real estate agents, recommending that people buy, right? And that they are just chasing a commission, or that they're not actually thinking about the best interest of a particular client. But here's the truth, and you can live by this. You can take this to the bank. And we have historical data here to back this claim up. If you have a good enough reason to buy and you can afford it, it is always a good time to buy real estate. So if those two caveats are met, you can feel confident that guiding someone to purchase real estate is a good thing, and it is in their best interest. And we have the data here to back it up. Yes, it can go down. And the likelihood of it going down is you need a seismic event for it to go down. Flat is probably more realistic.
Well, yeah. And Brent, evidenced by that, I'll just use my 21 years being in the business. Like I can tell you right now, in 2006 and 7, I built a home in 07. There was no one saying the market's going to crash. Everyone who says they knew it was going to crash, I never met him.
The one person who said it wrote a book and got famous.
Yeah. But I can tell you right now, like everyone was like, hell yeah, let's buy and let's go. And then this is what's the most funny, Brent. I go back to 2011. People weren't buying stuff. They're like, no, market's still falling. I'm going to wait for it to hit the bottom. And, I'm like, okay, I was humbled at that point. I'm like, you might be right. I have no idea how much lower it can go, but like, they're going to have to start paying us to take the real estate. And I'll never forget, even in 2013, I had this piece of real estate, downtown Meridian, Idaho. It was listed for $60,000 on the corner of a major road in downtown Meridian, Idaho.
Which just so happens it's now right across the street from City Hall. Like great location.
Yeah, a block away. Yep. And I bring that one up because I tried to sell that to all my investors. I had 7 investors I called. Every one of them were like, meh, it's not a good deal, blah, blah, blah. And finally, I was kind of bitching to a friend of mine. I'm like, dude, no one wants to buy this thing. And he's like, why don't we buy it? And I was like, I never thought of that. so I bought it. I bought it for $47,500. And with a partner, because I was nervous. I was nervous too. I was nervous. Like no one knows anything. So just, that's all I'm saying is like, and I remember back in 2019, 2018, we had multiple clients who were like, I'm taking my chips off the table, sell my house, going to put the money in the bank. I'm not going to do what I did in 06, where I thought real estate was going to go up forever. I'm going to let the market crash, and then I'm going to buy again. And that was this point, 272. And what happened? Real estate's almost doubled since they sold and put their equity in the bank. So, that was not the right decision, clearly, but no one knew. And, I guess I just bring that up. I don't want to like sit on this forever, but
I think as real estate agents, this point should hit home, and you should carry it around with you, which is what I started with. If they have a good enough reason and they can afford it, there should be no fear in the market.
Yeah,
to enter it.
Yeah, buy with confidence, because timing the market is a fool's errand, right? Like those people that sold and put their chips off the table and we're going to go back and buy at a discount. Like I don't know if the discount's coming, but it hasn't in the last 7 or 8 years. So,
well, and then people that bought in 06 and just decided to hold on to their properties and they own it today, like they're doing pretty good.
Yeah. And Ty's right. So she's like, am I reading this right? It took 10 years to recover. Yeah. The greatest drop in real estate history was wiped out 10 years later. That's correct. And
if you take out the recession, if you take out this great recession and you look at the history of home sales in the United States, There's only been 1 year where home prices have gone down more than like 2 years in a row. There's only been one time that's happened in the history when you take the recession out.
Yeah. It
That's
just
crazy.
doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess we should, just open this up and just see what everyone's feeling. What are you guys hearing? I plan on going over like 8 slides. We went over, I think, 2. So sorry about that. But I think it's important. It's important stuff. So what are you guys hearing? What's going through your heads?
This goes back to what Brent said 2 weeks ago. That when we have that negative propaganda out there about real estate, like this story, being able to tell this story to confident or maybe not confident buyers, but buyers that can buy right now or sellers that can sell right now, it's the perfect way to get around that, oh, interest rates are super high and all that jazz that's going on, even though interest rates are average. So
Yeah. Wait, we'll get to the interest rates maybe next week.
yeah.
I'll show that slide. What do you think, Claudia? Oh, I can't hear you. You're unmuted, but I can't hear you. She's waving.
Yeah, she's like, hold on. She's got her little hack here to make it work. Anybody else while she gets her audio going?
Mike.
Yeah, I just want to say, when you look at that chart and you look at that huge decline, like Ty pointed out, and you recovered in 8-9 years, and what Brent mentioned, there's only been 6 years in history that real estate has gone down nationally, and 5 of them were in one block, from like '08 to 11. You can definitively say that over the long term, real estate will always appreciate. Like, it's a definitive statement that you cannot argue over the long term. Short term, anything can happen. Long term always goes up.
Yeah, and we didn't even get to the inventory. I think we'll do that next week. But there still is a shortage of homes. So, and I was even thinking, I'm like, okay, Black Swan, what's the thing we're not thinking of? Maybe AI and robots figure out a way to build homes super cheap, and they invent some new material that's really cheap, like, sand makes silica, makes computer parts or whatever. Maybe that's what happens. But even then, like, dirt, I don't know. AI is not going to invent new dirt, unless people start doing Ready Player One and we live in some other world. But it's still looking pretty good for real estate, would be my guess. Claudia, can we hear you now?
Yeah, I was
Okay.
gonna say, like, I think data is like the hard truth, and there's no denying that. So it's like, whatever anyone's reservation is, when you look at that data and you present that to them, that's so, like, doesn't lie. It's solid. It's such a good tool to have and to
It
know.
removes the emotion, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and anytime you can remove the emotion to make a financial decision, I think that's in your best interest.
And just a little hack, guys. You could probably do this. I haven't done it, but using AI, I know it's probably possible. You could probably get into Claude, go to Fable as the model, and you could probably say, "Hey, go to NAR and get the national home sales for the last, since '91, and give me a graph with a 4% average long-term trend line." You could probably have a graph built in 30 seconds if you wanted to build something to have it presented. If you don't want to do that, Chase, we probably could put that together and have our own graph that we could put into the assets that you guys could use. So
yeah,
and keep it updated.
Well, I know we're over on time. That was fun for me. I hope you guys learned something. I always love nerding out on the data. So we'll start picking slides apart like this over the next month or so. We'll try and get through all the pertinent ones. So
sweet. All right, guys. Hey, guys, thanks so much for listening to another episode of the Real Estate Growth Network podcast, where we dig into real estate topics.
And we put these out every single week, and we look forward to seeing you at the next one.
See you later.